Hi, I'm Katie from Nurture Yoga, and in this restorative class we're going to be working on freeing the lower abdomen. So really working into softening through the intestinal region, which can be really helpful, especially if you feel any bloating or cramping in this area. But also of course, it's going to help to bring that sense of deep rest and relaxation, which is what restorative yoga really is all about. So you'll need a bolster, or if you don't have a bolster, you can use a couple of firm pillows, maybe bundled together, or a couch cushion. I'm going to begin in legs up the wall. So in this pose, we're going to sidle up to a wall. Hopefully you have one nearby. And then just turning, bringing the legs up and allowing the back to feel really relaxed along the surface beneath you. And the legs should feel nicely supported. There should be no sense of tension in the back of the legs. If you feel it's a little bit tight, you might scoot out from the wall a little bit. And there's also the option, if you like, to have the bolster underneath the hips. So to do that, if you bend into the knees, lift the hips up, and just pop the bolster in underneath the hips, and then releasing back down. So just finding your most delicious legs up the wall. And taking whatever movements you need to feel that your body is fully supported in this pose. This very gentle inversion to begin our practice and help move us from whatever we've been doing into our time of inner focus and restoration. You might even like to close down the eyes, and if you have an eye pillow handy, that can be really lovely to use at this point in time too. So just allowing everything to settle as the body begins to heavy and melt into the surface beneath you, maybe the support of the bolster if you have that under the hips. The mind also follows. As you notice the whole body really coming into that state of heaviness and rest, at this point, allowing the mind now to drift to the breath, watching the breath flowing in and out, and trying not to control it, but simply to be an observer and just watching the breath. And then as we find even greater heaviness, stillness, rest in this pose, we now begin to use the breath a little bit more intentionally to begin softening through the belly. So I invite you on the inhale to just allow the belly to soften and expand, almost like you're breathing down into that lower abdomen. And then on the exhale, just let it fall away, navel back towards the spine. Each inhale, breathing into your belly. Each exhale, falling away. Just noticing how it feels in that lower belly to give that part of your body a more soft attention. So often we harden through that area, we draw our bellies in, suck it in. But in this moment, we're just allowing it to soften, to be spacious. And while you continue that expansive belly breath, see if you can now extend the gaze of the mind to the body as a whole. So with each inhale, the whole body feeling soft and expansive. And letting go, everything feel heavy and melting into the surface on the exhale. So please feel free to stay here, or for the last minute you might like to then bring the feet down into Baddha Konasana, bound angle or butterfly pose. Just allowing the hips to soften open. And just continuing that belly breath, allowing the belly to soften and expand on the inhale. Falling away on the exhale, and everything with it feeling like it's just melting. So we're going to move out of this pose now, whether your legs up the wall or in your butterfly pose. So just closing the knees together. And if you've got the bolster underneath you, you might just press into the wall and push it out of the way so you can come down and then roll off to the side. Moving now into crocodile pose. So crocodile pose using the bolster. We'll begin with it lengthways and just laying the torso along the bolster. And then supporting the head with the hands. Taking time to feel like your body is amply supported by the bolster. And noticing also if the knees feel like they need a little bit of support, you can place the blanket underneath the knees or maybe even underneath the ankles. But the intention here is to allow the whole body to feel supported so that you can just soften into the surface beneath you. Feeling the contact of the heart, the belly and the pubic bone against the bolster. And just noticing if the arms feel like they are recruited in supporting you. Can you let go? Can you just allow the arms to be really heavy and trust that the surface beneath you has got you? You can let go. And in letting go through the belly as well, allow that belly to soften against the bolster. And just scan your body for any tension that doesn't need to be here. Particularly in the arms and legs, they may wish to just jump into action to support you again. So noticing if maybe you've started to press or hold the muscles in the arms and legs. And on the exhale, letting it go. And checking the jaw, maybe you've clenched a little through the jaw. Can you release and soften there? as you spend longer in the pose, you might notice how the shoulders move further apart, the shoulder blades sort of draw away from one another as the shoulders round over either side of the bolster in that continued process of really releasing into the surface beneath you. So once again, I invite you to stay here if this feels particularly relaxing for you. For those who feel like you'd like to move and start to soften up through that lower abdomen even more, I have an option here, and it does create quite a bit of pressing into the lower abdomen. So please, if it feels too much, maybe go back into our crocodile pose. We're going to lay the tummy over the bolster widthways on the mat. So you don't want it pressing up into the ribs. And then again, allowing the torso to soften. You might bring your feet a little bit wider on the mat here too. And once again, just softening into the support beneath you. Just making whatever adjustments you need so that the bolster's not pressing up into the hips. Sorry, the ribs. It will be pressing into your hips. So this is quite a firm compression of the lower abdomen. And it may feel good, it may not. So just listening to your body, returning to crocodile if this doesn't feel good. We're just going to be here for 1 minute. And just keep that breath flowing in and out, long and smooth and steady. And on your next inhale, if you are in crocodile with the bolster widthways, just coming up into a sphinx pose, rolling the shoulders open. And you can do this also if your bolster is lengthways on the mat. We're going to use just a little bit of movement with our breath here. So on the inhale, we inflate up, rolling the shoulders open. Exhale, we're just going to release down onto the mat using our Ujjayi breath. So a slight constriction in the back of the throat as we exhale long and smooth. So when you're ready, inhaling, exhale. Inhale, inflate. Exhaling. Inflating on the inhale. Exhale. And just resting there. Allowing the breath to come and go. And then making your way out of crocodile, whatever your version was. Bringing the bolster lengthways, if it is widthways, across the mat. And coming now into a child's pose. So the knees are wide on the mat. Bolster comes in between the knees, or if you have pillows, just having the pillows in front of you. Just releasing the spine, the torso, so that the bolster or the pillows catch you. So we did some very gentle work into the back of the body in that breathing exercise. So now we're just releasing, but also noticing the contact of the bolster or the pillows against the lower belly. Can you allow it to soften and expand again on each inhale? Release on the exhale. This is a lovely pose also to really feel a sense of length through the lower back here, where we can hold a lot of tension. So can you feel a sense of the pelvis drawing away and lengthening away in this beautiful release pose? And just so that the neck doesn't stiffen up, I invite you to lift the head and turn it in the opposite direction, allowing the opposite cheek to rest against your support. Letting everything go, everything melting down, feeling really soft through the lower belly. Out of child's pose now. We'll do so by hands facing the mat and then walking the hands back towards the body, step by step, moving really leisurely. And when we get to the top, just having a moment here, pausing, allowing the spine to adjust, maybe closing down the eyes and feeling into the body, noticing a sense of quiet that we've cultivated so far. And we're going to move the bolster off to the side for a moment now, and coming directly onto our belly. This next pose is going to be particularly helpful in releasing any bloating that you might feel. So hands can be either up beside the face, or you might even like to place them alongside the body. So just allowing the body to soften again into the mat, and then very gently beginning to rock the hips side to side. Okay, so allow that rocking now to just gently subside and coming back to stillness. And then again, begin to gently rock side to side. So we're lifting just one hip, then the other slightly up. Feeling that very gentle massage motion on the belly, and a loosening up through the intestines. So feet are staying still, torso still, just the hips moving backwards and forwards, slightly up and down, and coming to rest once more. And one final round, gently rocking side to side. The whole body should feel really relaxed here. And hopefully it feels really nice in your lower belly. And coming to rest once again. So if that felt good and you feel like maybe things have started to move in a positive direction, you might want to pause the video and do that for a few more rounds. But if you're going to continue moving forward with me now, we're just going to bring the hands underneath the chin or even the forehead, and knees bending so that the feet come up behind you. And then do some very gentle windshield wiper motions with the legs. So gently over to the right and then the left. So slightly larger version of the exercise we've just done, but now we're bringing the legs into it and bringing a very gentle side to side, almost a gentle twist into that lower belly. And then coming to a gentle stop, lowering the legs, and making our way now into a half frog pose. So half frog, some of you may wish to use the bolster, especially if you're tight through the hips. So we begin on the floor with the left leg, or the right, depending on which side you'd like to start, out at a 90-degree angle from the body, and then the calf at another 90-degree angle. I find that the floor's really hard on my knee. I'm a little bit precious, so I'm going to use the blanket here to soften the floor for my knee. And then the torso can just release down. I like to use the hands underneath my forehead so that my nose has plenty of space, and then everything just melts down. So if this feels okay for you, please just remain here, allowing everything to soften into half frog and feel that beautiful, generous opening in the left hip. If that's a little bit much for you and you have your bolster nearby, you can use the bolster in half frog. And once again, bringing that leg out to a 90-degree angle, and the other leg's just straight out behind you. And releasing over the bolster. So the bolster just gives you a little bit more room here in the hip, especially if you find that half frog on the floor is just a little bit too much for your body. So wherever you're at, whatever is the pose that is right for your body, the intention here is again to bring ease into the pose, allowing everything to soften and surrender to the things that support you. So if you're on the floor, it's just the mat, the floor that is supporting you, and the whole body can release into that. No muscular effort required. And I don't know if the microphone will pick it up, but my tummy is gurgling a lot at the moment, which means that hopefully the exercises we've just been doing are effective. Just taking 3 more breaths here. And then to come out of the pose, just lengthening through the leg that's out to the side, and bringing the feet just slightly wider than hip width apart, and very gently once again lifting one hip then the other, rocking backwards and forwards, and then coming to a gentle stop. And let's move to half frog on the other side of the mat. Once again, knee comes out at a right angle, belly, torso can release onto the mat, bringing the opposite hand on top if you used your hands underneath your forehead, and allowing everything to release. You may notice quite a difference between one side and the other. I can very much tell that this hip is not opening as easily as my other side. So just being really compassionate with yourself, with wherever your body is at. Not forcing the pose, so I'm not trying to get that hip super flat on the mat. And noticing also if you're holding tension anywhere. So in this pose in particular, sometimes the arms start to press into the mat and feel like, oh, I've got to support the body. But just let them know they can let go. You can melt the weight of the whole body, arms, hands, head, torso and legs, into the support of the surface beneath you. Completing 3 more breaths here. And when you've finished your 3rd breath, once again extending the outstretched leg long so that both legs come behind you. If you're on the bolster, this would be like our crocodile pose at the start of the practice. So on the next inhale, just lifting the head up, coming up onto the hands, and we're going to make our way now into a supported bridge pose. So you will need either the bolster or your pillows for this. A couple of ways you can make your way into supported bridge. Coming onto the back with the knees bent. And the first option is to lift the pelvis up and bring the support underneath you so that it supports the weight of the pelvis. And for some people that's not achievable no matter how high they try to bring their hips. The bolster's a little bit higher, so the other option is to sit on the bolster, and it isn't always the most glamorous way back. But trying not to fall back so that you can bring the torso onto the support of the mat beneath you. Just closing down the eyes if that feels okay. And really enjoying this first pose in a while on our back. So we've been on our bellies for a while. And let's just spend the first minute observing, feeling into that abdominal region. Noticing if there's any movement or feeling of things being softened. And then I invite you to once again employ your belly breath. So on the inhale, allowing the belly to soften and expand. Exhale, falling away. And with every exhale too, a sense of the whole body melting into the surface beneath you. And once again, my tummy is having a nice little talk. I don't know about you. It's certainly having an impact. So please feel free to stay here, particularly if this feels really calming and relaxing. It's quite a delicious pose. But if you'd like to join me, we're going to bend the knee towards the chest and then cup the hands over the knee, and on the exhale just draw it in. And then if that feels okay, you might even like to extend the opposite leg, feeling a gentle stretch along the top of the hip flexor, the top of the left thigh. And then remaining here if you'd like to, or you might even like to bring some movement into it. So just gently drawing the knee over to the outer edge and then towards the center of the body. Very gently and smoothly moving that knee outward, inward. So some nice gentle hip movement, but also it feels calming, but also this calming movement in the lower belly. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. Just listen to your body and what feels right in this moment. Okay, so if you're moving, let's just pause and then release that foot to the mat, bending into the straightened leg if you had it outstretched, and pause here in the supported bridge just for a moment. Maybe realign the hips if they've gone a bit skew-iff on your bolster. And let's repeat on the other side if you did it on the first side. So on the exhale, the knee comes into the chest, drawing the knee in slightly more. And then if it feels okay, extending through the opposite leg, noticing that hip flexor getting a nice stretch. And then if you would like to join me in moving, knee comes slightly in towards center and then away from the body. Just a smooth gliding motion side to side. Back to rest and releasing that foot to the mat. Opposite leg bends also. Spending a final moment here enjoying our supported bridge. So we'll make our way from here into Shavasana, our final resting pose. So however you need to come out of the pose, you might just lift the hips and move the bolster off to the side, or you might even roll it down behind the hips so that it comes under the knees, all ready for your super comfy Shavasana. Or if you prefer to have Shavasana lying directly on the floor, just move any props off to the side. It's another opportunity to pop an eye pillow on if that feels good, if you have one at the ready. So just making whatever adjustments you need to feel really relaxed. The whole body resting on the mat. Just noticing if the head is aligned. You might even gently press into the back and neck. Tilt the chin towards the chest, feel that length at the back of the neck, and then release. Feel that extra length at the back of the neck. Roll the shoulder blades underneath the back so that the collarbones feel nice and broad. Palms are facing the sky. Noticing if the lower back needs any adjustment, maybe readjusting the pelvis and the buttocks on the mat so that there's no tension in the lower back. And feet slightly wider than hip width apart, falling to the outer edges of the mat. Everything softening and releasing. So this is where I'll leave you. Please feel free to stay here in Shavasana for as long as you'd like. And I hope this practice has been helpful to you and helped you to also feel calmness and stillness. I thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.